Hey, are you considering sailing on the Celebrity Reflection? Wondering if it's too small, too old, or just right? Well, we're gonna answer all your questions about Celebrity and if it's worth the extra price over Royal, and if Celebrity Reflection is the right ship for you right now. So you're considering sailing on the Celebrity Reflection, but you're just not sure, is it too old, is it too small, is it good for families with kids? We're gonna answer all these questions for you and more right now. Okay, so this was our first Celebrity sailing. We'd never sailed with them before, and so we were curious as to what exactly the experience was gonna be like. Having been loyal to Royal customers for a long time, we wanted to see how Celebrity stacks up and is it actually a cut above Royal like they kind of advertise. Okay, so let's start this thing off. Amy, what's the first thing you want to talk about?
Food.
Okay.
We love food on the cruise ships, and so far we've done specialty dining, we've gone to the buffet, we've gone to main dining, we've tried the cafes, and everything's been fantastic. Nothing has been subpar.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Almost every single thing I've had on board this Celebrity ship has been a step above Royal, just a little bit nicer quality, a little bit more flavor. The only two things really that I've found that weren't necessarily better in my opinion was the escargot. I thought the dish on Royal was better, and the chocolate chip cookies. Now that's because I prefer like chewy chocolate chip cookies instead of the real hard crunchy ones. And the ones here just feel like they're the crunchier type. So if that's more your style, maybe Celebrity has better ones. We did get to go to specialty dining. We went to Le Petit Chef in Cuisine, and that was a really neat dining experience. And to keep this video short, if you're interested in seeing that, we'll put up a link to that video right here so you guys can see a review of Le Petit Chef. The dining setup on board is extremely similar to Royal Caribbean, where you have the Ocean View Cafe, which is like your Windjammer buffet. You also have your main dining room, which is on multiple decks. And then you also have specialty dining restaurants, as well as like little like eateries around to grab snacks, coffee, things like that.
One extra thing that they have is gelato, which we got to try last night, and it was really good. They had toppings, all different flavors, and that's in addition to that ice cream that's on board.
But it's not included and you do have to pay for the gelato. And one more key takeaway about food is that Celebrity actually offers late night dining, where that's a big complaint on Royal Caribbean, where typically you can only get a slice of pizza or a quick snack when you're late at night. Here, when the late shows end and you're hungry, or you've been partying at the club and you're hungry, they actually have a limited selection available in their buffet until 2 a.m. So big shout out to Celebrity for having late night dining options. So being that this was our first sailing on Celebrity, I was very curious to see what the clientele was like, because they obviously market it as if it's a luxury line or just a step above Royal. I feel like Royal is obviously geared towards families and that middle class family experience, unless you're staying in a suite, where here on Celebrity, I feel like it's geared more towards like the affluent people or the higher end of middle class. What do you think?
Definitely the different classes and definitely the older generations. So this ship is not geared toward families. It's mainly geared for people that I would say they're upper 40s, maybe 50s and above. We're in our 30s and we are some of the youngest people on the ship right now. So there are a few families with some little kids. I'd say maybe we've seen maximum like 30 kids total, but other than that, it's all older folks.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, on board, while there are a few families here with children, I just feel like on Royal, where kids are apparent and they're everywhere, that's really not the case on the Celebrity ship. And I've seen kids, but they're just not obvious. There's not a lot of them on board. So if you're looking to get kind of that more adult type experience, it seems like Celebrity is really geared more towards that. And if you have kids and you're wondering what there is to do here, well, they do have Camp at Sea, which is like Royal Caribbean's Adventure Ocean, or basically a place for kids to hang out during the day where there's teachers that are babysitting them. But other than that, there's really not much else. And for teens, they have the Teen Club, or the X Club as they call it here. But there are no splash pads, water slides, or other things for kids to go do, no arcade, so it's very much geared towards adults. In talking with other parents that we've met on board, most of them have told us that if their kids are say 4 or older, they've been pretty bored here and they're not really having a great time. Now, the kids that seem to be doing well are your middle to later teens, so maybe your 15, 16 and on-year-olds are having a much better time, but they're almost to that adult range and they're able to kind of fend for themselves. They don't need to go to a camp. They're not looking to do something crazy. They're just looking to go hang out with friends and have a good time. So this sailing is actually an anomaly for Celebrity. It's a shorter 3-day sailing. Celebrity typically does longer sailings, such as 5 days or more. Now, because it is a short cruise, you do end up having some of that booze cruise factor bleeding over into it because it's a weekend cruise, and it does seem to be more of a party crowd, which I think if we were on a longer celebrity sailing, it wouldn't be so much that way. Speaking of booze cruises, let's talk about booze.
It's very different. I think it's more expensive. Not I think, it is more expensive. So for example, his normal drink is a Mezcal Mule and it runs between $12 and $14 on Royal Caribbean. We checked our account the other night and it was $18, the same exact drink, so way more expensive.
Yeah, it was $18 before tips, which I think is a pretty steep price for what you're getting with that very generic mixed drink, and it's not like I'm asking for top shelf liquor here. One of the other big differences with booze, so if you are a Crown and Anchor member on Royal Caribbean and you're used to getting drinks throughout the day for free, anywhere you want, up to a certain amount of drinks, well, it's gonna be completely different on Celebrity. Here, they have a cocktail hour from 5 to 7, and it's not every bar, it's most bars. And you can go there and get certain drinks off a set menu. So while it is nice that you are getting free drinks, it's not necessarily maybe the drink you want, and it's not everywhere you want. It's way less convenient, and honestly, if I'm being real, I like Royal Caribbean setup much better. What do you think?
Correct. I have not gotten any mudslides this cruise because of the price of them, and I can't pick it up wherever I want, and it's not one of the covered drinks, so I haven't gotten any of my dessert drinks, any of my martinis. Those are not on the list. So I do prefer Royal Caribbean's drinks throughout the day. Another thing that's different is the coffees and the cappuccinos. There's one place where you can get your mixed cappuccinos, and with our status match, we were able to get free throughout the cruise, so that has been nice. The coffee on board is kind of okay here, but it's not great.
So the shows on board the first 2 nights of Celebrity Reflection were 2 groups from outside of the ship's cast. One was Boy Band Evolution, and they basically went through a journey through time of boy band music. This went all the way back to the Jersey Boys, and then moving forward to NSYNC, and everything in between.
I thought it was really fun because when we had the people from all different ages, you had my age, which was NSYNC, and Backstreet Boys, which they did, and yes, the crowd screamed, but you also had like the Beatles and that sort of deal. So you had those that were in their 60s or 70s still getting up and wanting to dance because it was the boy bands that they grew up with. So that was a really neat show.
And then on night 2, we got to see Rebel, which was a group of rock singers who did headline in Las Vegas, and now they're touring here before they go back to headline a new show in Las Vegas. And those guys had some pipes as well. It was a completely different experience as they were singing different rock songs throughout the ages as well, but it was another neat show. And then tonight, there's going to be a production show. We haven't had the chance to watch that yet, so I can't give you a review on that, but I'm assuming it's gonna be very similar to a Royal Caribbean production show.
And just remember, because it's a shorter sailing, they're not having as many production shows. So on Celebrity's longer sailings, you do have more production shows sprinkled in, and then you have some headliner shows.
I gotta be honest, on board Celebrity, I just feel like the staff isn't quite as friendly as a Royal Caribbean staff. They just feel much more personable on Royal Caribbean. They just don't really reach out to you. It just doesn't feel as personable. I will say though, after I go up to them and break the ice with them, everyone's very approachable and they seem very nice and they are willing to help and chat, but you really have to initiate that. They're not gonna do that. Where on Royal Caribbean, they are much more personable. We'll come up to you and say, hey, how you doing? Is there anything you need? So on and so forth. So as far as Reflection herself, Reflection was built in 2012. It was upgraded in 2022, so about a decade later. So it doesn't feel very old to me. The ship looks nice, it's in really good condition, and everything around the ship feels like it's a newer ship. However, I will say that Reflection also has the build of an older ship where it's very compartmentalized. And I just don't know if that's a Celebrity thing because we've never sailed another Celebrity ship, but where Royal has a lot of big open spaces, Celebrity is a little more compartmentalized, at least here on Reflection. And that's kind of good and bad. One, it makes a ship feel very choppy and you're kind of like looking for that specific space where your event's happening that you're wanting to go to. But on the other hand, I felt like it really moves people throughout the ship well, and I've never really felt crowded anywhere we were.
Right, and they would have events all over the ship kind of happening for all different types of people. So you think you're gonna show up, and we're used to showing up to different events early to make sure we have a seat. Well, there might be 20 or 30 people there with you instead of like 50 to 100 people. So you're not fighting for a seat, but you still feel intimate and you still have a fun time.
A great example of this is at the front where the theater is. Just outside of that, there's a movie theater, and there's also like a little foyer area. At the same time there was a show going on, there was a movie going on, as well as a trivia game outside. So in that really small space, there was 3 things going on, all kind of isolated from each other. So the theater didn't really fill up. When we went to a movie one night, that didn't really fill up, you know, and you just never really felt overwhelmed or crowded here.
Right, and our ship is sailing at capacity, so it's completely sold out.
What I do like about Celebrity is that the spaces they do have, they are maximizing towards adults, such as the movie theater, or like the solarium was really nice. The solarium on board is very similar to the newer Royal Caribbean solariums, where they're actually climate controlled. So it's cold, it's not muggy and hot and sweaty in there. You can see condensation on the windows, it's so cold, which is nice. So you can kind of get out of the heat, go in there, be in a hot tub, cool off when you get out of the hot tub. I really, really enjoyed that.
Right, I also enjoyed the solarium because not only is it peaceful, we're used to skipping out on the solarium because it's hot and muggy because it's all closed in glass. It's not open like the pool decks are, but here we could grab something to eat, we could go to the hot tub, and we're not sweating. We get that little feeling after we go back outside.
Another neat area is their spa has a place called the Persian Garden. The Persian Garden has these like stone hotbed chairs that are hot that you can lay on and relax your muscles. They have an aroma sauna, a cold sauna, a hot sauna, saunas in all the bathrooms as well, several large showers. It was a really neat area that we got to take advantage of due to a status match, and I gotta tell you, it was worth it. I really enjoyed it. Would I pay the $99 fee for the entire trip? No, I wouldn't, unless it was a longer, like 7-day sailing. It was very relaxing and very nice to use, and it never got full either, which was nice. So I did enjoy it, but you kind of gotta weigh out your options here, whether that's worth it to you or not. The pool onboard reflection is actually pretty small, but it's kind of combated by the fact that there's a whole nother pool in the solarium, which kind of pays off for that. Another neat feature on Celebrity on the reflection is that they have an entire lawn garden area where you can go hang out. And then during football season, they were playing all the football games out there. So it kind of made it feel like you were sitting in your backyard watching the games. There were bars all over the place and many different specialty dining options around the ship, which was really cool. I just thought they did a really good job of giving you options on where to hang out, where to eat, and where to go get drinks, and what you can do to really entertain yourself on board. On board, there were activities at all times. From the moment you wake up until late at night, they have things planned and things going on at all hours of the day, which was really nice. It was like Royal, but just a little more active, I would say. And it was nice because as this is geared more towards adults with less kids, that was kind of the problem when you have a Virgin, is that Virgin had almost nothing going on during the day, but then came alive at night. Here, they did a really good job of balancing it out with daytime activities and then nighttime activities for the party animals at night.
There were all types of activities going on. So not only were there the classes in the morning for like stretching and whatnot, after we came back in from excursions, if you wanted to do a yoga time before supper, they had a yoga time for that too. They had lots of wellness things, your massage tasters. They had different types of game shows that were very interactive and got the entire crowd. So it wasn't picking 1 or 2 people out of the crowd.
Yeah, they had a ton of different like fun, engaging activities. They did have your standard trivia, but they also, like she said, had different games around. They had family events for the parents to go meet up with their kids and do events together that way. They really did a good job of balancing out the ship and having stuff going on all the time in different places.
Now, if you couldn't find an activity you didn't want to do, one of the levels within the glass elevators was their game on room, and you could go with your family or even by yourself and pick one of their electronic table games.
Yeah, there were large electronic tables, like a large iPad almost, where you could play different games, board games on there. And that was a really neat feature and a cool just place to go hang out. Speaking of cool hangout places, they also had places like the Hideaway, which is almost like a treehouse, tree fort area inside the ship with a floating tree, like almost 10 decks above the floor, which was really, really cool. They just had a good job of breaking up all these spaces and making everything feel unique and like a different space. So the ship is really neat in a lot of aspects, but really compartmentalized. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up with some quick ratings and then a final thought. So what do you rate the food on Celebrity?
I would give the food a 9.
A 9, okay, why
And the only reason I'm deducting a point is because of the cookies.
Oh, okay, those are powerful points from the cookies. I would have to give the food like a 7.5. Like, it was better than Royal Caribbean's if I'm using them as a benchmark, but it wasn't quite to that Virgin level. In my opinion, Virgin was like that 10 out of 10. Okay, so what did you think of the performers, the entertainment on board?
I would give the entertainment an 8. We mainly have just seen headliners. We haven't seen the actual production staff, so I'm excited to see them to completely finalize that.
I have to agree. I feel like an 8's fair. They have a lot of activities going on. It's very easy to be entertained on this ship, no matter what it is you're into, whether it's gambling or shopping or shows, entertainment, trivia, movies, everything. And while the headliners were good, they weren't great. And so we'll see how the production show is tonight, but I feel like an 8 is a very well-earned score. Okay, what about your interactions with staff?
I would give staff a 7. And that's only because we're used to walking down the hallway and them saying hello, good morning, any type of welcoming interaction where these staff, you can walk by and you have to physically like make eye contact and make effort to have a conversation or to say hi. They will not be the first one to say hi and help you.
Yeah, and that could be different on every ship, but at least for this ship, that is kind of how it is. And I'll just go with your rating as well. I feel like that's a fair rating. They're good at what they do. The ship feels well upkept. Our room is always clean. But yeah, they're just not personable, and that's gonna cost you a few points. Okay, so overall, what is your overall score for the Celebrity Reflection?
Overall, I would give the sailing a 7.5 to an 8.
My thoughts on the ship are gonna be, if it's an adult-only cruise for you, or maybe an adult cruise with some older teenage kids, it's gonna be a great ship. I'm gonna go with like an 8.5. It's a really good sailing. It was a good time. The ship's in good condition. If you're trying to bring a family on board, it's gonna be a much lower rating. It's gonna be much harder to deal with younger kids here because there's much less for them to do on board. It would probably drag me down to like a 4, maybe a 3.5, because there's literally nothing for them to do, and they're gonna be miserable like these other people's kids were on board that we saw. So the Reflection isn't gonna be one of the biggest ships that Celebrity has, as it's part of their Solstice class. It's actually a mid-sized ship. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good size. If you are looking for that Royal Caribbean style experience, but with a little more luxury added to it, just a little more upgrades, I would say Celebrity is the way to go. This has been a good overall experience for us. We would sail with Celebrity again. I kind of joked before, Celebrity just feels like a distant cousin to Royal. Like, there's some familiarity there. There's a little awkwardness at first getting to know each other, but now we're good to go, and we really enjoyed it. I hope this video has helped you decide on whether or not Celebrity Reflection is going to be the right ship for you. If you are interested in booking a cruise on Celebrity, you can always scan the QR code here so Amy can help you book the right cruise for you. And if you're still not sure, I encourage you to watch another one of our videos over here to help you decide, and we'll see you guys on the next one.